Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Chicago Blackhawks franchise mode here in NHL 23. So in the last episode, we had free agency and we started up the season, and as you can see so far, we are 24, 12, and 5. So we're actually off to a pretty good start this year. We are currently the best team in our division with 53 points. So everything has been doing pretty well for the most part. There definitely is maybe a couple question marks, but one thing that kind of took me by surprise in the last episode is how good Marian Tayupkin has been. He has been absolutely great so far, and if he continues on this pace, he should win his first Vezina trophy, which kind of came out of left field and out of nowhere, because you could see his last few years of stats haven't been really the best. Like, he started off his career with some below 900 save percentage. Last year he was above 900 for the first time, and this year he's above a 920, which is insane. So we'll see if he's able to continue that in the second half of the season. But hopefully, if he does that, hopefully he could have better playoff stats, because our team has not been good in the playoffs before, and he hasn't been good either. So it'd be nice to have actually a good playoff goaltender for once. Also, guys like Vance have been still doing pretty well for the most part, with 20 goals in 39 games, even though he has dropped down to an 80 overall. So there is a lot of drop off from our veterans, but at the same time we have some solid depth scoring. There is a couple guys, like I was mentioning, at plus minus wise I'm not a huge fan of, so we are going to be reworking the lineup a little bit. But I do think this team should be making it to the playoffs unless they fall apart in the second half of the season, which could happen, honestly. So anyways, before we get into simulating the rest of the season, maybe making trades depending on what this game does to us, I do have a couple comments to go over. So both of them are from Michael Dose. The first one says, you think the hot start through 41 games is due to the head coach change? Now, I think it could possibly be, because we are a much better defensive team than we've been in the past. So maybe Masunave is the guy that should have been the head coach all along, because I think last year we had Renault, if I remember right. So actually, it seems like Masunave has been helping us out quite a bit, maybe in the defensive department, because he's an A in defense. What is Renault? An A minus. I don't know if it would make a huge difference really, but maybe it is because of the A minus via the B instead. Maybe that made the big change. And then lastly, Michael also says, I don't think Vance should be on the first line. I know you're loyal to him, but you got to get the higher rated players above him and move on. And yeah, as much as I hate to agree, I agree with what you're saying. Vance has been our best goal scorer still this season, which is crazy, but moving somebody like to Curtis Coburn to the top line, moving somebody like Hawley probably to the second line, or Bruce to the second line would make sense as well. We're going to probably be running Vance as a third liner with Hawley and Recchi, and then likely Vance will also be still on that top power play unit, but we are going to demote him a bit, which kind of sucks, but he is dropping off a lot, and Curtis Coburn needs to take that big next step. He's only got the 12 goals so far, so I want to see if he could get up to like a 30-goal season again in the second half, because he's on pace for his worst season yet, which would not be great. So we're going to try him on the first line and Dallas Bruce on the second line. We could always put Vance back into the top six, but for now we're going to try and balance out our offense a little bit, and we're going to keep the rest of this team the exact same for now. But who knows, maybe we'll have to make some trades in this episode. I don't think we're going to have to, but you never know. Never know, because maybe we'll just have a really bad month all of a sudden. Like maybe moving Vance to the third line is going to ruin our team. Hopefully not. But we're in a pretty good spot, because you can see the last team that's not in a playoff spot in our division is at 42 points. So we're 11 points up on the Dallas Stars. As long as we could keep a big gap like that, we will be in business. So let's continue simulating and see how this team does for the rest of the season, because we are very close to the end of this franchise mode. So we definitely want to make the playoffs here as soon as possible, or else we might run out of time before we get a chance to win that Stanley Cup. So let's go to the end of January, see how we do in these last 5 games of the month, as St. Louis has fired their head coach. That's kind of good, because we do play them in a couple days. One of our prospects, that's a low 4 and a third rounder for a third and a fifth. No, thank you. I don't really want to make any trades like that. Even if it's a low 4, still. Okay, and we're on a little bit of a slide for the start 2 games, but then we bounce back with 3 straight wins. We are now in second place in our division. We are only 9 points up on the Stars, so the Stars are trying to make up some room, it seems like, but we are still one of the first best teams in our division. It's basically a three-man race right now in the Central. As you can see, the Preds also tied with us, but after that, then there's that huge gap, which might come in handy for us, because if we were in the Pacific Division, on the other hand, we would be in the first wildcard spot, which is kind of nuts. So Wharton's over point per game now, so Wharton is still doing well, which is nice, because obviously he's like the highest paid player on the team. Wow, we have another game against St. Louis coming up. We just had 2 games against them, and now we're going to play them again. Well, maybe that will help us out, because they aren't doing too well. Yeah, they're pretty terrible right now. They're like almost reverse of our record. Let's go to the 15th. Take it a little bit slow just to make sure we're not under-simulating here. Hey, we're winning a lot of games here. It's good. That's funny. I don't really want Kabanov back, especially for that type of offer, but thank you there, Vegas. And yeah, this team is still doing really well. We're at 30 wins on the season already. And we're not even at the deadline yet, which is nice. We're still second place in our division, only behind the Wild. The Preds are 3 points back of us, and then there is a 9-point gap still with us in Dallas. So we are in a very good spot still. We just got to keep on winning games and not fall off too much. Let's go to the first. There's a shootout loss. At least that's a point still. There's a loss. There's a loss. Another loss, but in a shootout. Oh, no. Another loss. Guys, stop losing. And then we win 9-7. And then Emmanuel Brissois has been injured till March 11th. That's a pretty big blow. Let's just go replace player on that, but that's a pretty big blow. At least it's only for a few weeks. And then we won 3 straight games after that big losing streak. But a 9-7 win over Toronto. I wish I could see box scores, because I'm curious on how much goals like guys like Vance would have had at that point. So we're still in a good spot, 73 points. Last playoff team has 70 points. Last team that's not in the playoffs has 66. So there is still a very close gap, but we are starting to find ourselves still. We only are at 58 games played too. So we do have games that we could pass the Wild in, which is good. And nobody on our team is point per game, which is kind of weird, but that means the depth scoring must be very solid. Or it means we're just a good defensive team, one of the two. Let's continue simulating, I think. Yeah, let's continue simulating. Might as well. To a day before the deadline. So the game against Ottawa is a 5-3 loss. Not ideal. And then there's another game against St. Louis here. Ooh, Dallas is definitely making up some room here on us, which is not ideal. 5 points back now, and we only have 1 game in hand. Yikes. This is going to be a close race, I think. We might end up finishing in a wildcard spot if we fall off a little bit in these last little bit of the month. Oh, wow, okay. Vance is now leading the team in points, which is great. He's got 28 goals. So since being demoted to the third line, he's only scored 8 goals. So I don't know if he's going to hit 40 this year. He should hit 40 still. He was on pace to hit like around 40. We'll see if he hits 40, but he needs 12 goals in the last like 25 games, I guess, of the season. If my math is right, which I think it is. Okay. Do we need to address anything? Like, how is Tayukin doing? He was at a 922 save percentage. Is his goals against still good? 919, yeah, he's still doing really well. He dropped off a little bit, but still doing relatively well. And how's Laxo doing as a depth option on the top line? He's point per game. Pretty good. He's been a long-term AHL player, so it's good to finally get him in. Yeah, okay. He's fine to be on that top line. I don't mind it for now. Brissois should be back soon. I don't really think there's anything I want to address. I don't really want to look at the individual player stats. So let's go to the team standings right now and see if there's anything that's like kind of an outlier for us right now. Like our goals for, goals against, that type of thing. We are currently, where are we in terms of the entire league? We are the 12th best team in the NHL. Goals for per game, we are one of the best offensive teams, so our offense is good. Goals against per game wise, we are one of the best defensive teams, so that's good. Power play percentage wise, we are one of the best teams, so that is good. And penalty kill percentage wise, we are the tied for second best, so we're good in pretty much every category. Really good on the road though, by compared to home ice. So I think we are going to keep everything the same, which might be a risk, but if everything's gelling, why not just keep it the same and see what happens. I'm just hoping that we make the playoffs, obviously, because if Vance retires and we miss the playoffs, I would be pretty pissed at myself for not making a trade here. But we got to take it and keep on going. So let's go past the trade deadline and see if there was any trades at the deadline that are interesting. Not that it really matters at this stage, but I want to see if there's any former players getting dealt. Let's just go continue simulating here. We lost 6-5 to St. Louis. That's not ideal. So Dallas is trying to get themselves back into the playoff hunt. Apparently there was a big trade. Don't know any of those guys except for Cameron Schremp. I think I do know him. He was a former high-up pick of the Boston Bruins, I think, in this series. Bancroft on waivers. And no, thank you. He was a good player at one point, but don't really need him, because we already got kind of our depth forwards anyways. I mean, he would be an upgrade over Gustavo Brown in a sense, but Dallas is only 3 points back of us now, with 1 game in hand for us. Yikes. Yeah, this is going to be coming down to the wire if we make the playoffs or not. And we have good stats all around, so I don't know why we're kind of fighting to get into the playoffs at this stage. Let's take a look at the trades anyways that happened at the deadline. Not that it matters too much, but see if there's any former players of ours that got traded. Don't see anybody. Well, there's one. Len Morris got traded from Columbus to Carolina. So Len Morris is in Carolina. Ron Torres got dealt for another former player in Cabanov. So Cabanov's off to Colorado. Ron Torres is off to Vegas. Kind of funny when you see multiple former players getting dealt. Valkov Ziska already got dealt from Columbus. He signed there as a free agent, but he gets dealt to Montreal. So there goes Ziska. Anybody else? No. Okay. So a couple of former players got dealt. Nothing too crazy, though. Let's take it a little bit slow for the rest of the season, just because, yeah, if we end up falling off, like we lose like 10 straight games or 4 straight games, we might be outside of the playoffs looking in, and then it's going to be a tough task to get ourselves back in. Come on, guys, we need to win games. Bourgeois back. That may be why we're losing games. I don't really know, but I hope that our age isn't catching up to us here late in the season. 8-6 win over LA there, as Yokel has been injured. That's a big loss. We'll go replace player, but that's a massive loss. 2 more straight losses. Another loss and another loss. Oh my god. This team is literally doing nothing. And apparently Dallas lost a bunch of games too, I guess, during that stretch, because they're still 4 points back of us. I feel like Tayupkin's stats are definitely going in the tubes a little bit. But, wow. We are lucky that Dallas has been losing a bunch of games as well, because we are definitely not catching any of these teams that are in the Pacific in terms of the standings. But we might make it just because our division is weak. Like, we're 4 points up on the Stars with the same amount of games played. And then after that, there's a 12-point gap between Dallas and Arizona. So I think we are in a spot where basically, if we lose to Dallas a couple times, then we're in a bad spot. But if we win against Dallas, if we play them at all, we're in a good spot. We're 10 points back of the Wild, so we are sliding a bit, which is not ideal, but it could be because of that Yokel injury a little bit. Yeah, it could be because of that. Let me just see if I can find a way to fix this up. Let's go get Chuck on the top pairing instead. And hopefully that -2 isn't dragging us down here late in the season, because that would not be ideal. Let's go another week. 3 games. Can we get at least 2 wins, please? Back-to-back shutouts, okay. So I was thinking about Tayukin struggling, but all of a sudden we have back-to-back shutouts, so maybe he's actually good. That's kind of weird that we picked up back-to-back shutouts, considering we had like a couple games where we allowed a lot of goals. Only 1 goal against in our last 3 games. After the week before that, where we allowed 4, 7, and 5 or 6 goals against, or 5 goals technically, I guess. But wow, what a weird week. That is a big week for us, though, in terms of the standings. We're up 82 points now, and we're 6 points up on the Stars with 1 game in hand. We do play them a couple times here late in the season, 2 times. So this game against them would be huge for us in terms of making the playoffs. So let's see, can we beat Dallas here? Yes, we can via shutout. We win 3 more straight games. We are now in a very good spot that we are very close to clinching probably that playoff spot, because we're 11 points up on them. We have 1 game in hand. That was a massive win against them. Let's go against Arizona and see if we clinch soon, because we should be. There's another win. Jeez, now we're on a torrential pace. We've won 7 straight games here late in the season. Usually it's reversed where I lose a bunch of games, but not this time around. Let's go another week, see what we do in these 4 games. There's our 8th straight win, and then we lost to Edmonton, Buffalo, and LA. So now we're on a 3-game losing streak. We have clinched a playoff spot, so that's huge. That is all I really wanted to know. That is good. So we're going to be making it back to the playoffs. The question is, how good are we going to be doing in the playoffs, though, as we go in on a 3-game winning streak? So 45, 28, and 9. And yeah, Dallas missed out by 8 points. The Preds get that last playoff spot in our division with 92. We won our division, so somehow we leapfrogged the Wild in that last little bit because of that 7-game winning streak, I think, by 5 points. So we win the Central with only 99 points, but if we were in the Pacific, we'd be in a wild card spot, kind of almost. That's kind of crazy. Well, yeah, we would be in a wild card spot. That is insane. Our division was so weak. There's a 30-point gap between us and the Avs, who finished dead last. Interesting. Okay. Let's take a look at our players' stats for the season and team stats. Weston Wharton led the team in points. 14 goals, 69 assists, 83 points. He was over point per game. So during that stretch where we won a lot, he probably picked up a good chunk of points, my guess. But let's take a look at those team stats first. Did we hold up in all those areas? Because we were good in pretty much everything. Did we finish good in everything? We finished as the 7th best team in the NHL. Only behind Detroit, Florida, San Jose, LA, Pittsburgh, and the New York Islanders have won another President's Trophy. Goals for per game, we were the 3rd best offensive team in the NHL, so that actually improved since we last looked. Goals against per game wise, we fell off a little bit, probably because of that one stretch, but we were still decent, like mid-table. Power play percentage wise, we were the best team on the power play, so that's probably why our offense was so good. And penalty kill fell off a lot in the second half of the season, it looks like. But it should be still around, yeah, a little bit below mid-table. So that's why we really struggled in the second half goals against wise, is because our penalty kill just fell off. But that's okay. And yeah, we were way better on the road than on home ice. So there is that. Let's take a look at our player stats for the 2043-44 seasons. So Vance only finished with 66 points, only 35 goals. So since moving him to the 3rd line, he scored 15 goals, which is still not bad. Still not bad at all, but he definitely is going to be probably retiring soon. His last 2 seasons have been I should say. He's still well over point per game in his career, which is good. And he's only 38 goals away from 1,000. So if he comes back for another season, there is a chance he might get very close to 1,000. If he retires this year, he won't obviously hit that. But that's his lowest goal total since probably his first season, my guess, right? It's his 2nd season. He has not been a non-40 goal scorer in a very, very long time. So it's a little bit weird, but it is what it is. Lane Atkinson, 58 points, so he kind of dropped off in the second half, it seems like, but still 58 points with no power play points is decent. Bennett had 56 points, is really good. Burrish actually had a pretty good year. Parker Burrish continues to surprise me. A lot of his points are always on the power play, though, because if he didn't have power play time, he wouldn't do as well, but 51 points and a -3. Yeah, he's been pretty solid the last 2 years. Very much a power play performer over anything else. And yeah, Gustavo Brown was 2 point per game with 2 points in 2 games. Left wing wise, Wharton was really good with the 83 points. We know about that. Dallas Bruce had 42 goals. So he promoted Dallas Bruce to the 2nd line, and he was also playing power play. He finishes with a 40-goal season in his technically first full year in the NHL. Awesome. That means he's going to want to get paid, though, a lot, though, in the next year or so. Coburn had 30 goals this season. Pretty good to see him finish with 30 goals. He's got 3 straight 30-goal seasons to start his career. Not the same type of player as Vance right now, but he is scoring, so that's good. Hawley finished with 29. So our young goal scorers are coming through, which is nice. Eventually they'll all replace Vance, probably. Gustafson, 25 points is pretty solid, and Laxo was point per game as a depth option, which I like. He did have one fight, apparently, in those 4 games. That's funny. Right wing wise, Brossoit was really solid again, 75 points in 78 games. He has not dropped off yet, but he probably will soon. He's been a really solid addition since bringing him in via free agency a few years back. Quite a few years back, I should say. Fred Brookbank had 34 goals in his rookie season. So the youth movement has been great with the goal scorers. And Recchi only had 4 goals, but 34 points. So if we look at our forwards in terms of goal scoring, Vance finished second in goals, but aside from Vance, the future is bright. Bruce, Brookbank, Coburn, and Hawley all almost had 30-goal seasons. Hawley just missed out on one. So we have definitely the goal-scoring ability there once Vance leaves, I think, which is crucial, because once Vance leaves, if we didn't have that, it would definitely take a big chunk out of our offense, but this time around it won't. Jokela led the defensive core in points with 60 points in 77 games. Pretty good year for him. Ross Carter was a goalie I had in Colorado back in NHL 19. I don't know why I thought of that, but Raymond Carter, 29 points plus 29, pretty damn solid. Kachuk, 26 points plus 14. Kaupinen, 16 points plus 2. Nordgren, 16 points plus 12. And Benino had 12 points plus 5. Vergone, 4 points in 11 games plus 2. Not too bad. I like that all of our defenders are plus. And goalie-wise, Tyupkin definitely dropped off in the second half, but does he have a Vezina in his bag? Probably not, because that second half he dropped off a lot. But 7 shutouts is really nice. 7 shutouts is really, really nice. And then 3 from Devon, so 10 combined shutouts this year out of our 82 games. But yeah, Tyupkin drops from a 922 to a 912. And his goals against average goes from like a 2.3 something, was it? Or a 2.2 something to a 2.6. Still a solid year, though, for Tyupkin. He gets 2 assists as well. I don't know if he's going to win the Vezina. I don't think so with the limited amount of wins he had. Let's take a look at player stats around the league. Who led the NHL in points? Charlie Gardner in Carolina. 111 points. He was the only guy to hit 100 points this year in the NHL. So scoring was down a bit, which is interesting. Keeping second, Kolnick up there, Cornette, and Frolov, not a surprise, those 3 guys. Fournier, Nikolitin, Menino, and Olvestad. So there is your point getters. The best goal scorer this season was Charlie Gardner with the 53. Sylvain Parks just barely hit 50, which is kind of surprising considering his start to the season. But he does hit another 50-goal season. Burnett also up there, Manlow. It's crazy that Manlow still hit 50 goals even without Sylvain Parks next to him. Because those guys used to be like line mates, I think. Let's take a look at Selke candidates. See what we got here. Probably Devin Doyle. Nikolitin would be up there as well, likely, though. Okay. Best defenseman for points this year was Pisani with 62 points. But it's likely going to go to Coburn because he was a plus 28. But Jokela was very close to winning a Norris. Langlois also up there, who we were looking at a few years back. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely a lack of scoring on the forward department in a sense. But all these defenders had over 50 points. So that's a lot, which is crazy. Goalie-wise, Easton Donald had the most wins, our former goaltender. Most shutouts was Tyupkin with the 7. Nice. Best save percentage by a starter. Fragapane had a 922 through 46 games, but I don't know if that gets him the Vezina. But you're looking at probably like Reimer, Albertozer probably because he has 41 wins. But in terms of save percentage, Tyupkin was up there. I don't know why it shows Torres there as a 905. Did he have like a 912 combined this season? Probably. Yes, probably. I think that's why this glitch works, is because the sorted stuff from Ron Torres is basically combining his stats from the 2 teams he played for. And that's why he would be at a 912. But he was only at a 905 with Vegas, a 905 with Colorado. It's showing his old Colorado stats. His old Colorado save percentage. So there's a bit of a bug. Best goals against average by a starter was probably Fragapane, but Melnick had a 261. Best rookie this season was Fred Brookbank. We might have a Calder winner, but actually Bouchard might get it because of that plus minus. But in my eyes, Fred Brookbank is rookie of the year because of the 34 goals. But yeah, likely it goes to Bouchard because plus minus. Any good rookie goalies this year? Let's see. The staging guy was good through 7 games. Russ Streit, Streit, not Street. Russ Streit was pretty good. So there is that. Now the question is, what are we playing in round 1, and are we going to be able to get out of round 1? Is the question, since we won our division. It's going to be Anaheim who we're taking on in round 1. They won 46 games, very similar record to us, but we won our division. They did not. What is Anaheim looking like? I'm curious on that. Let's take a first look at their stats during the regular season compared to us. So, yeah, they were the 5th team. We are the 3rd best team in the West. We are tied in points. We scored way more goals than they did. They allowed a little bit less than us, only 3 less goals. We were better on the power play, and they were better on the PK by only a little bit too. Now, what is that lineup looking like for the Ducks? Is it a scary team? I don't remember if we've played Anaheim in this series. I think we might have at one point. But they have, this is not going to be good. It might be a tough task for us because we're going up against Marty Menino, who is a great goal scorer. Had 59 goals a few years ago. And also, of course, there is Keeping as well, who was a former 2nd overall pick of the Red Wings. Don't know how he got to Anaheim, maybe as a free agent, but yeah, this guy's really good as well. And then they have Matty Eskalainen. Solid top line. Second line has Devin Clark, Nikolai Ivanov, and Dalton Patolny. Pretty solid second line. Third line has Kim Persson, Tyrone Dubnyk, and Dawson Kovalchuk. Apparently, Ilya Kovalchuk had a kid with an English name, like Dawson. And a fourth line is Stefan Bouillon, Barry Jarvis, and Oscar Stromberg. Yeah, that forward core is pretty good. I mean, it's lacking a bit of depth on like the left side, but the right side having an 85 as a third liner is really good. The center depth is okay too, but it definitely drops off considerably after Keeping. Defensively, they're not very good. Michael Gratton, Georges Boutin, former defenseman of ours, Avery Potter, is in Anaheim. How has he been? 25 points, not bad. Not too bad. He's moved around quite a bit after leaving us. So there is Potter, and also Wayne Smits. And a top 6 pairing of Semin and Clark. So that defensive core is not very deep. They don't really have a stud defenseman, but it still could simulate better than ours. Who knows? And they do have a good goaltender, though, in Brennan Reimer, who's a 91 overall. And he's had 2 solid years. Back-to-back years, I should say. His playoff numbers are not really the best, but he has won 23 games in 49 attempts. And backup is Wayne Morgan. So they have 2 solid goaltenders, but not the best defensive core. They do also have an injury, which we'll take a look at in a bit. Maxime Cote, Emiliano Hutton, our former 6th round pick, is in Anaheim. I forgot he even went there. He played last year in the AHL. This year he played 70 games, had 20 points. Wow. He played with us a couple years ago in the playoffs, but yeah, Hutton is there. And Rodney Patterson, another former player of ours. Former 1st rounder. He's being used as a depth option. Had 32 points last season, didn't play a single game this year. But yeah, he hasn't been really the best player, but he's still a decent depth option. Looks like he's losing morale a bit. So, Patterson, Hutton, and Potter. So the graveyard of former prospects, pretty much. So there is that. Let me take a look at how long Emiliano Hutton is out for. Are we going to have to face our former defenseman? No, we will not. He's not back till May the 6th. He has back spasms, apparently. So there is that, and that's going to do it, guys, for this episode of our Chicago Blackhawks franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to round 1 against the Anaheim Ducks as we look to maybe get one last run out of Vance, because he honestly might retire this offseason, and hopefully this is a year that we could somehow win a Stanley Cup in, because we do not have a lot of time left to win a Stanley Cup. Send anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.